Earth's rising temperatures caused an immense crack in the ice. The shifting tectonic plates moved the glacier apart slowly over time. Crack worsened, and the cells that slumbered for thousands of years thawed. With enough fresh water and food from the iceworms, the cells thrived and crept up to the surface to look for their preferred host. The microorganisms burst out of a small air pocket from the ice. They became airborne and sprayed onto all nearby plants like spores. A herd of wild caribou traveled through the contaminated vegetation patch. They rooted around in the harsh Alaskan tundra, searching for lichens. The animals grazed on without any idea of the danger which lurked below. A scruffy elder caribou ate from the spore-contaminated vegetation and became patient zero. The foreign cells immediately multiplied inside of their new mammal host. They copied the DNA from their host and mutated themselves into something else, something that could think and feel as their host did. Satiated, the spores told their host to find a good spot to infect the rest of the herd. The caribou did as it was told and died where it slept that night. A gentle breeze blew the corpse's spores into his neighbor's eyes, nose, and mouth. Within 1 week, all 30 caribou were infected with the strange cells. The herd disbanded, as their members died off until only the strongest remained. The last caribou was a pregnant female. She watched as her last family member fell into the ice chasm and broke every bone in its body. Spooked, she ran into a safe zone that the herd had frequented before. It was at the edge of her frozen tundra home. A heavily forested area with lots of fir trees and the occasional human being willing to feed the wildlife some of their table scraps. The humans kept the bears away and would look after the injured caribou, as they saw them as a profitable investment. The female caribou was desperate for help. She ran into the human territory. It smelled strange as the wind whipped at her matted fur. Her skin suffered from pus-covered boils, which made her 7-centimeter coat almost useless in the below-freezing temperatures. Her vision was blurry from the snowstorm, which attacked her from all sides. She could no longer see what was directly in front of her. The ground in front of her gave way, and she fell into a 20-foot deep pit, which was man-made. It was a hunter's trap meant for a wolf. Fortunately, there wasn't a spike to impale her, but she couldn't get out either. The caribou stood up and watched as some snow landed into the pit. She had some shelter from the branches that covered the trap, so she sat there and waited for death. Eventually, it came for her after the blizzard calmed, but it did not take her baby. The baby stayed and mutated in its mother's dead womb, getting stronger as it waited for its next host. The baby fed off her from the inside. It did not discriminate over who or what it ate. Days passed until the hunter came back to check his trap. He moved the branches away from the top of the trap and gasped at the sight of the bloated caribou carcass. The hunter was drunk and none the wiser. He observed the boils on the strange-looking corpse and decided to poke it with a tree branch. He accidentally released spores from the carcass. They flew around into the air. He rubbed his face as an itchy sensation tickled his nose and irritated his eyes.
Goddamn pollen, he muttered.
He stumbled forward and almost fell into the trap. A strong breeze knocked him back, and by some terrible luck, his snowshoes broke and sent him careening into the pit. He hit his head on the cold, hard brick wall on the way down and smashed it open. When he woke, he watched the dead caribou give birth to a blue-green creature with bright yellow eyes that glowed like flashlights. It lapped up the hunter's shed blood that mixed into the snow. The creature resembled a caribou until it stood up on its hind legs as a man would. It crept over to the dying man and bit into him to harvest more of his valuable DNA. The man shrieked and threw a punch at the creature. The creature backed off and thought as the man did. It waited and watched the man to better predict his next move.
What the fuck are you? And why did you bite me? The man yelled.
The creature moved away from the man and growled as a caribou would. It stood in the darkness with its unblinking eyes shining brightly in the man's direction.
Get away from me, the man growled.
The creature watched him, but said nothing. The man pissed his trousers in fear as the eyes drew closer to him. The creature lunged forward and took a bite out of his leg like a chicken drumstick. The man screamed like prey and fought back the best that he could, but the creature was big enough to overpower him in his weakened state. It was no use. The creature fed on him until the man died. The sun rose over the creature's head. The confectionery snow covered the man and the caribou's corpses enough to hide their outlines, with the exception of the man's outstretched arm. The creature contemplated his escape. Perhaps it would freeze until his next meal arrived. The creature figured that it was possible, as it had worked before. It lowered itself down into the snow and crossed his arms. Ice crystals formed on its flesh as its metabolism slowed down to a crawl. Hours turned into days, weeks, months, and then years.